Now, the story of Rurik Jutting doesn't end with his arrest. It doesn't end with the trial. And it doesn't even end with the life sentence that locked him away forever. Because the real weight of this case lies in the aftermath, the psychology, the legacy, and the questions that still haunt Hong Kong and beyond. In the courtroom, the evidence spoke volumes. 2 women murdered, hours of video confession tapes, detailed notes and fantasies. Jutting himself, sometimes calm, sometimes smug, sometimes broken. But what shocked people most wasn't just the brutality of his crimes. It was who he was. Because Rurik Jutting didn't look like the stereotype of a killer. He wasn't a shadowy drifter. He wasn't a man with nothing to lose. He was wealthy, educated, privileged, a Cambridge graduate, a banker earning hundreds of thousands a year. On the surface, he was a picture of success, and that made the fall even harder to understand. Psychologists who studied his case argued that this was precisely what made him so dangerous. He was able to hide behind a mask of respectability. He had the intelligence to manipulate people, the charm to blend in, and the resources to cover his tracks. When his addictions to drugs and alcohol spiraled, that mask cracked, and beneath it, his darkest impulses exploded. But here's where the case gets even more chilling. In interviews after his arrest, Jutting admitted something few killers ever say outright. He was addicted to cruelty. He described it as a compulsion, something he couldn't control. He said that once he started, he couldn't stop, and he admitted that if the police had intervened, he would have killed again. That revelation rattled even seasoned investigators, because it confirmed that his 2 victims were not the end. They were only the beginning. He was already planning more, and the notes found on his devices hinted at just how far he might have gone. Experts point to what they call the perfect storm. A man with high intelligence, immense privilege, collapsing into addiction and isolation, and feeding his violent fantasies through online communities. It's a recipe for disaster. And in Jutting's case, the result was catastrophic. But the psychology of his crimes isn't just about him. It's about how society failed to see the warning signs. His colleagues noticed his spiral, his drinking, his erratic behavior, but wrote it off as stress. His friends saw his arrogance and dark jokes, but never thought he meant them. The cracks were visible, but no one realized how deep they ran. For the families of his victims, the aftermath was unbearable. Sumarti, Ningsih, and Seneng Mujiasih were both young women who had left their homes in Indonesia to earn a living in Hong Kong. They worked to support families back home, sending money to loved ones who depended on them. Their deaths weren't just shocking, they were devastating. Their families not only lost daughters, but also their main source of hope and support. In Indonesia, the story hit hard. Headlines described the horror in detail. Vigils were held. The families demanded answers. And the question that echoed wasn't just why Jutting did it. It was why the world didn't protect women like Sumarti and Seneng. Women who worked in vulnerable jobs, often overlooked, often at risk. Back in Hong Kong, the case shook the city. The idea that a respected banker could commit such atrocities in a luxury apartment stunned the public. It blurred the line between safety and danger, between privilege and evil. If a man like Jutting could hide such darkness, who else would be hiding behind polished suits and expensive smiles? But the legacy of the case doesn't end with fear. It sparked conversations about mental health in high-pressure careers, about the dangers of addiction and isolation, about the need for better protections for migrant workers, and about the growing threat of online echo chambers where violent fantasies are normalized. Still, many questions remain unanswered. The encrypted files on Jutting's devices were never fully unlocked. The white data was never recovered. Were those just private notes? Or did they connect him to others, to darker networks that continue to exist today? That mystery lingers like a shadow over the entire case. And then there's Jutting himself, locked away for life, far from the neon lights of Wan Chai. He remains an enigma. In prison, he has alternated between remorse and cold detachment. Sometimes he apologizes. Sometimes he insists he was broken. And sometimes, in his most chilling moments, he seems almost proud. The psychology of Rurik Jutting leaves experts divided. Was he a man destroyed by addiction and mental illness, spiraling until he crossed the line? Or was he always a predator, hiding behind a massive success, waiting for the moment to strike? We may never know the full truth. But here's what we do know. The case left scars on Hong Kong. It left scars on 2 families in Indonesia. And it left scars on anyone who dares to look too closely at the videos he left behind. And the most haunting part of all is this. Jutting admitted that if he hadn't been caught, he would have kept going. He said the killings were only the beginning. That means his story isn't just about 2 lives lost. It's about the countless others who were saved only by chance, only because police arrived when they did. The story of Rurik Jutting isn't just about crime. It's about privilege, addiction, and the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of success. It's about the failures of society to see the warning signs. And it's about the chilling reality that evil doesn't always come in the form we expect. Sometimes it wears a suit. Sometimes it smiles politely. Sometimes it lives right next door. And even now, as he served his life sentence, the encrypted files remain. The unanswered questions remain. And the legacy of his crimes continues to haunt those who live through it. Because the truth is, the story of Rurik Jutting doesn't end. It lingers. It warns. And it reminds us that sometimes the scariest monsters aren't hiding in the shadows at all. They're hiding in plain sight.